It was faster than the Boeing 707, quieter than anything else in the sky, and so breathtakingly elegant, it became known as the undisputed queen of the jet age. Passengers adored it, pilots loved flying it, yet this British engineering masterpiece ended up as one of the greatest commercial missteps in aviation history, with only 54 ever built. How did Great Britain create an airliner universally acclaimed for its performance and luxury, only for it to fail in the global market? To understand what went wrong, we have to look at the practical engineer who led its creation. On the 29th of June, 1962, thousands of factory workers gathered along the airfield perimeter at Brooklands in Surrey. They were there to watch the maiden flight of a machine that had consumed their working lives for years. Moving slowly onto the runway was a long-haul jet unlike anything coming off American production lines. It featured a clean wing completely uninterrupted by engines, 4 Rolls-Royce Conway turbofans clustered together in pairs against the rear fuselage, and a towering T-tail that dominated its silhouette. With test pilots Jock Bryce and Brian Trubshaw at the controls, the prototype Vickers VC10 throttled up, accelerated down the tarmac, and lifted effortlessly into the sky. Yet the man directing this ambitious program was not a lone artist sitting in an isolated studio sketching beautiful shapes. He was George Edwards, the son of a London toy shop owner. Edwards was a senior engineering and industrial leader who directed an immense design organization, negotiated complex demands between government ministries and state airlines, and fought to keep British civil aviation competitive against manufacturing giants across the Atlantic. To understand the character of the VC-10, you have to rewind to Hyams Park in East London, where George Robert Freeman Edwards was born above his father's shop. He did not step straight into prestigious aeronautical drawing offices. Instead, he attended trade and engineering school, entering the working world by tackling heavy machinery, industrial cranes, steel bridges, and hydraulic equipment. When he finally joined Vickers Aviation at Brooklands in 1935, at the age of 27, he brought with him a deep, practical grounding in heavy engineering. To Edwards, a design was never a success merely because it looked impressive on paper or boasted high theoretical performance. His early career had trained him to think about how complicated machines were actually built, how they were maintained by ground crews, and how they would function under harsh operational conditions. That pragmatic approach defined his entire leadership philosophy. At Vickers, Edwards entered an engineering culture dominated by formidable technical minds, including chief designer Rex Pierson and the visionary engineer Barnes Wallis. During the Second World War, Edwards served as experimental manager, dealing with urgent aircraft modifications, structural adaptations, and rapid production challenges under immense pressure. When Rex Pierson passed away in 1948, Edwards was appointed to succeed him as chief designer for Vickers. Through these formative years, he absorbed 3 crucial lessons that would shape his career: how to lead massive technical teams, how to transform unconventional concepts into practical hardware, and how government requirements inevitably shape the aircraft that roll off the assembly line. It did not take long for Edwards to demonstrate what British industry could accomplish under practical leadership. Under his direction, Vickers produced the Viscount, a medium-range turboprop airliner that became Britain's greatest post-war commercial aviation success. With 444 built, the Viscount proved that a British manufacturer could build a reliable, profitable airliner that appealed to international operators. Edwards was personally involved in opening the North American market, securing vital orders in Canada, and breaking into the United States market with Capital Airlines. The success of the Viscount proved that Vickers had both the technical credibility and the commercial capability to win global customers. It established a high benchmark, giving both Vickers and the British government reason to believe they could repeat the achievement with a long-range jet. By the late 1950s, however, the global airline industry was facing a massive technological shift. The arrival of the American Boeing 707 and Douglas DC-8 was rapidly redefining long-distance air travel. These early American jets were designed around big domestic markets and long paved runways at sea-level airports. Britain urgently needed a competitive long-range jet airliner of its own to maintain its standing in international civil aviation. The assignment fell to Vickers, but the challenge was far more complex than simply building a British copy of the Boeing 707. Britain's primary state-owned international carrier, the British Overseas Airways Corporation, or BOAC, operated a network that spanned vast distances across Africa, the Middle East, and Asia. Many airports along these routes, such as Nairobi, Salisbury, and Kano, were situated at high altitudes, experienced extreme heat, and featured relatively short or restricted runways. In aviation, high altitude and high temperatures combine to create thin air, which severely reduces both wing lift and jet engine thrust. Early American jets like the 707 struggled under these hot and high conditions, often forced to take off with severe payload restrictions or reduced fuel loads. BOAC required an airliner capable of flying long intercontinental sectors while maintaining exceptional short-field performance from demanding airfields. This created a major strategic dilemma for George Edwards and his engineering team. They could build a standard long-range jet broadly similar to the Boeing 707, optimized strictly for long runways, or they could design an aircraft specifically tailored to meet BOAC's difficult operational network. They chose the second path. The result of that decision was the unmistakable design of the VC10. To meet BOAC's stringent performance requirements, Edwards' team placed all four Rolls-Royce Conway bypass turbofan engines at the rear of the fuselage, mounted in pairs on structural pylons. By moving the engines off the wings entirely, the main wing surface was left completely aerodynamically clean. This allowed the engineers to equip the wing with an exceptionally sophisticated array of full-span leading-edge slats and massive trailing-edge Fowler flaps, paired with a high T-tail that kept the tailplane clear of engine jet wash and wing turbulence. The VC-10 achieved extraordinary aerodynamic efficiency at low speeds. The VC-10 could lift heavy payloads out of short, hot airfields that early American jets simply could not handle, climbing away at steep angles that amazed onlookers. Furthermore, the rear engine placement provided an unexpected benefit for passengers. Because the engines were mounted far behind the main passenger cabin, the interior was extraordinarily quiet, particularly in the forward sections. However, solving BOAC's specific problems so thoroughly brought severe commercial penalties. Rear-mounted engines required heavy structural reinforcement inside the rear fuselage to carry the weight and thrust loads of four massive turbofans. This added considerable dead weight to the aircraft structure. Additionally, the complex wing and rear engine configuration generated higher aerodynamic drag and greater fuel consumption during high-speed cruise compared to aircraft with podded engines mounted underneath the wings. As the official records of the RAF Museum note, the very characteristics that gave the VC-10 its superior field performance also gave it higher cruise fuel burn. Edwards' team had solved the exact problem given to them by their primary customer. The difficulty was that solving BOAC's niche requirements so perfectly made the VC-10 less economically attractive to major international airlines operating from long, modern runways where short field performance was completely unnecessary. Furthermore, during the years the VC-10 was being developed, major airports across Africa and Asia were rapidly expanding and lengthening their runways, steadily eroding the very operational advantage the VC-10 had been built to deliver. When the prototype made its first flight in June 1962, followed by entry into BOAC passenger service in 1964, the aircraft was an immediate hit with the public. Passengers loved the smooth ride and the low cabin noise levels, while flight crews praised its handling qualities, powerful climb rates, and reliable control systems. The enlarged Super VC-10 followed into service in 1965, offering increased seating capacity and extended range. For a brief period, Edwards' design strategy appeared fully vindicated. Yet technical excellence and passenger popularity could not overcome the harsh economics of industrial scale. Boeing and Douglas had already captured the lion's share of the global long-range jet market. American manufacturers benefited from massive domestic airline orders, extensive production runs, lower unit manufacturing costs, and worldwide spare parts networks. International airlines, focused on operating margins and fleet commonality, overwhelmingly preferred aircraft with lower cruise fuel burn and lower seat mile costs. Even BOAC's commitment to the program fluctuated as political and economic conditions shifted, leading to scaled-back orders and prolonged public friction between the airline leadership and the manufacturer. Ultimately, only 54 VC-10s were built across all civil and military variants, compared to over 1,000 Boeing 707s. Admiration for the aircraft was universal, but admiration alone could not generate the sales volume needed to compete with American production lines. Despite its commercial limitations, the VC-10 proved to be an extraordinarily tough and versatile machine. While its civil airline career was shorter than hoped, the aircraft found a second life with the Royal Air Force. The RAF acquired VC-10s for strategic transport and later converted many into air-to-air refueling tankers. In these military roles, the aircraft's strong structural integrity, high speed, and excellent takeoff performance proved invaluable. The VC-10 served the Royal Air Force faithfully through multiple global operations for nearly 50 years, remaining in active service until its final retirement in 2013. George Edwards continued his rise through senior industrial leadership, eventually becoming chairman of the British Aircraft Corporation. He went on to guide major international projects, playing a pivotal role in the development of the BAC-111 jetliner and the pioneering Anglo-French supersonic transport, Concorde. The story of the VC-10 is not about a lone genius acting in isolation, but about a dedicated engineering leader guiding thousands of technicians, draftspeople, and factory workers. George Edwards helped define an industrial philosophy that refused to simply copy American designs, choosing instead to tackle complex engineering challenges with distinct British solutions. The VC-10 proved that Britain possessed the engineering talent to build a jet airliner admired around the globe. What it could not alter was a changing global market where raw manufacturing scale and operating economics would ultimately dictate success. If you enjoyed this deep dive into civil aviation history and the engineering decisions behind iconic aircraft, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. Now, we want to hear from you. Was the VC-10 an over-engineered masterpiece tailored to the wrong requirements, or a brilliant aircraft caught in an unwinnable commercial market? Share your thoughts in the comments below.